Why your mind never stops thinking. The psychology of overthinking. Have you ever replayed the same thought over and over again, searching for an answer that never seems to come? Perhaps it happened late at night. The room was quiet. The world was asleep. Yet your mind remained awake. Thinking, analyzing, questioning, revisiting conversations, imagining future problems, reliving past mistakes. And no matter how hard you tried to stop, the thoughts kept coming. If this sounds familiar, you are not alone. Millions of people experience overthinking every day. Some call it worrying, others call it anxiety. But beneath these labels lies a fascinating psychological process that has shaped human behavior for thousands of years. The strange truth is that your mind is not trying to hurt you. In fact, it believes it is helping. To understand why overthinking exists, we must travel back to a time long before modern life. Imagine one of our ancient ancestors standing near the edge of a forest. The world around them is unpredictable. Danger could appear at any moment. A predator hidden in the shadows. A sudden storm. A rival tribe. Survival depended on one critical ability: the ability to anticipate problems before they happened. Those who carefully considered potential dangers often lived longer than those who acted without thinking. Over time, the human brain evolved to become a prediction machine. Its job was simple: identify threats, prepare for risks, avoid danger. This ability helped our ancestors survive. But in today's world, the same system often creates a different problem. The dangers have changed. Most people are no longer worrying about predators hiding behind trees. Instead, they worry about relationships, careers, money, health, social approval, the future. Yet the brain responds in a surprisingly similar way. It scans for threats. It searches for solutions. It tries to predict every possible outcome. And sometimes it becomes trapped in an endless loop. This loop is what many people experience as overthinking. The mind begins asking questions. What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if I made the wrong decision? What if something goes wrong tomorrow? Each question produces another question, and another, and another, until the search for certainty becomes exhausting. One of the greatest misconceptions about overthinking is the belief that more thinking automatically leads to better answers. But psychology suggests otherwise. There is a point where thinking stops being productive and starts becoming repetitive. Instead of solving problems, the mind begins circling around them. Imagine sitting in a rocking chair. You are moving constantly, yet you are not actually going anywhere. Overthinking works in much the same way. It creates the illusion of progress while keeping you emotionally stuck. Many people believe they overthink because they are weak. But this is rarely true. In fact, overthinking is often linked to intelligence, self-awareness, and imagination. People who think deeply tend to notice more details. They imagine more possibilities. They analyze situations from multiple perspectives. These qualities can be valuable. But when left unchecked, they can also become overwhelming. A powerful imagination can create solutions. But it can also create fears. A sharp mind can identify opportunities, but it can also identify endless reasons to worry. The same mental abilities that make someone insightful can sometimes make them vulnerable to overthinking. This is why highly thoughtful people often struggle with mental exhaustion. Their minds rarely rest. Even during moments of peace, part of their attention remains focused on potential problems. Psychologists sometimes describe this as cognitive overactivity. The brain continues working long after the situation requires it. Imagine receiving a simple text message. The average person reads it and moves on. An overthinker may spend hours analyzing its meaning. What did they really mean? Why did they use that word? Did I say something wrong? Are they upset with me? The situation itself may be small, but the mental energy invested becomes enormous. And often, the brain treats imagined problems as if they were real. This is one of the reasons overthinking feels so emotionally draining. Your body responds to your thoughts. If your mind constantly imagines threats, your nervous system reacts accordingly. Stress increases. Tension rises. Sleep becomes difficult. Focus decreases. And gradually, overthinking begins affecting multiple areas of life: relationships, work, health, confidence, decision making. The irony is that many overthinkers believe they are seeking control. But the more they seek certainty, the less control they often feel. Because certainty is something life rarely provides. No amount of thinking can eliminate every risk. No amount of analysis can guarantee every outcome. Yet the mind continues searching for perfect answers, perfect certainty, perfect safety, and finding none. This creates frustration, because the brain becomes trapped between two conflicting desires: the desire to know, and the impossibility of knowing everything. Perhaps this is why overthinking often feels like carrying a heavy weight. The weight of unanswered questions, the weight of imagined futures, the weight of possibilities that may never happen. And yet, despite all this effort, the answers often remain out of reach. The more tightly we try to control uncertainty, the more exhausted we become. And this is where the true psychology of overthinking begins to reveal itself. But if overthinking creates so much stress, why does the brain keep doing it? The answer lies in one of the most powerful illusions of the human mind: the illusion of control. When life feels uncertain, the brain searches for ways to regain a sense of safety. It believes that if it can think long enough, analyze deeply enough, and prepare carefully enough, it can prevent pain before it happens. At first, this sounds reasonable. After all, planning is useful. Preparation is valuable. Reflection can help us learn from experience. But overthinking is different. Planning moves forward. Overthinking moves in circles. Planning creates action. Overthinking often creates paralysis. The mind becomes trapped between possibilities, unable to move, unable to decide, unable to rest. This is why many people who overthink struggle with decision-making. Even simple choices can become exhausting. They imagine every possible outcome, every potential mistake, every hidden consequence. The brain keeps searching for the perfect decision, yet perfection rarely exists. And while the mind continues searching, life continues moving. Opportunities pass. Moments disappear. Experiences are missed. Not because the person lacks intelligence, but because they are waiting for certainty that may never arrive. Psychologists often refer to this tendency as analysis paralysis. The more information we gather, the harder it can become to act. Because every answer creates new questions. Every solution reveals new uncertainties. And eventually, the mind becomes overwhelmed by its own complexity. There is another reason overthinking feels so convincing. The brain is naturally biased toward negative information. This tendency is known as negativity bias. From an evolutionary perspective, paying attention to danger increased the chances of survival. Missing an opportunity might be disappointing. Missing a threat could be fatal. As a result, the brain became exceptionally skilled at identifying what could go wrong. Even today, this ancient survival mechanism continues operating beneath conscious awareness. Imagine receiving 10 compliments and 1 criticism. What will most people remember? The criticism. Imagine having 100 successful days and 1 embarrassing failure. Which memory tends to replay more often? The failure. The brain gives special attention to experiences it believes contain important lessons. Unfortunately, it does not always distinguish between useful reflection and endless rumination. This is why overthinkers often replay conversations long after they end. They revisit decisions that cannot be changed. They analyze situations that may never happen. Their minds become historians of the past and fortune tellers of the future. Yet they rarely experience the present moment. And perhaps this is the greatest cost of overthinking. It steals attention from the only moment that truly exists. Right now, many people spend years waiting for their minds to become completely free from uncertainty. But that day rarely comes. Because uncertainty is not a problem to solve. It is a condition of being human. No one knows exactly what tomorrow will bring. No one can predict every outcome. No one can eliminate every risk. The search for absolute certainty is endless, and endless searches create endless exhaustion. This realization can be surprisingly liberating, because it changes the goal. Instead of trying to eliminate uncertainty, we learn to tolerate it. Instead of demanding perfect answers, we accept imperfect ones. Instead of waiting until fear disappears, we move forward despite fear. This shift transforms the relationship we have with our thoughts. Rather than treating every thought as a command, we begin treating thoughts as information. A thought is not a prophecy. A thought is not reality. A thought is simply a mental event passing through awareness. This distinction may seem small, but it changes everything. Imagine standing beside a river. Leaves float past on the surface of the water. You notice them, but you do not chase them. You do not grab every leaf. You simply observe. Thoughts can be approached in the same way. Not every thought deserves attention. Not every thought deserves belief. Not every thought deserves analysis. Some thoughts are simply passing through. The challenge is learning to let them pass. This is where mindfulness becomes valuable. Mindfulness is not about stopping thoughts. It is about changing your relationship with them. The goal is not mental silence. The goal is mental freedom. Freedom from the belief that every thought requires action. Freedom from the need to solve every uncertainty. Freedom from the endless cycle of mental resistance. Ironically, the more we fight our thoughts, the stronger they often become. But when we allow them to exist without fear, they gradually lose their power. Like clouds drifting across the sky. Present for a moment, gone the next. Many people discover that peace does not come from controlling the mind. Peace comes from understanding it. From recognizing that the brain evolved to protect us, not to make us happy. From realizing that overthinking is often an attempt to create safety. And from understanding that true security cannot be found in endless analysis. It can only be found in trust. Trust in your ability to adapt. Trust in your ability to learn. Trust in your ability to face challenges when they arrive. Because the future has always been uncertain. And yet, somehow, you have survived every difficult day you have ever faced. Every challenge. Every disappointment. Every fear. You are still here. Perhaps that is the lesson overthinking struggles to learn. You do not need to predict every storm in order to survive it. You do not need to know every answer before taking a step forward. You do not need complete certainty to live a meaningful life. Sometimes courage is not the absence of uncertainty. Sometimes courage is moving forward despite it. And perhaps the mind becomes quieter the moment it realizes that life was never meant to be perfectly controlled. Only experienced. Only lived. Only embraced. So the next time your thoughts begin racing, the next time your mind starts building endless scenarios, remember this. Your thoughts are trying to protect you, but protection is not the same as truth. You are more than your fears. You are more than your worries. You are more than the stories your mind creates. And beyond the noise of overthinking, there is a quieter voice waiting to be heard. The voice of wisdom. The voice of presence. The voice that reminds you that this moment, right now, is enough. And perhaps that is where peace begins.